Hi, and welcome to this episode of Better Life Conversations. Today we are talking about the impact of hope on communities and on ourselves. And in that vein, my guests today are Liz and Carrie from Impact Hope. Welcome back.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. It is always so much fun having you two here because one, you're happy and you smile a lot, and I love being around happy people. It makes me feel happy. But also just the importance of hope. You know, we look around this world, and without hope, you know, we have prayer every morning in worship, and we talk about really challenging things. You know, people send in prayer requests, and we're talking about, you know, end of life events and everything else. And it's hard to imagine how do you have these conversations if Jesus isn't part of it and you don't have this hope? I mean, it's hard enough without that. And that's kind of what you guys do. So, Carrie, let's talk to you first. Impact Hope, you've been here a few times and you've talked to us, but give us a quick recap. What is Impact Hope and what is your goal in community?
We are focused in the country of Rwanda.
Okay.
And we bring hope and education to impoverished youth. What a lot of people don't know is there was a genocide that happened in Rwanda back in 1994. There were refugee camps set up, but they don't know that those refugee camps are still in existence today. So over 30 years later, we are serving this community of refugees that have either been born into the camps or have currently fled from the conflict that is surrounding Rwanda.
Yeah.
Rwanda is a safe and beautiful country that is taking in these refugees, but they are living in horrible conditions. No running water, no electricity, and really no hope. Where we come in is we take young adults, high school age, and we get them into safe Christian boarding schools to make sure that they get taught, they get an education, and they get taught a skill so that they can get a job or start their own business to break that cycle of poverty for themselves and their families.
Right. And how long have you been doing this?
I've been with Impact Hope for 2 years.
Okay.
Yes.
And Impact Hope has been around for how long, Liz?
10 years
10
now.
years now.
Yes.
And so you've had 10 years to kind of look at the impact that you're having when a student goes through the process. How long is the process? What age do they come into the schools? And then about what age are they done with the training and out into community?
Yes, so they actually take a test in the 9th grade. So they are educated through the 9th grade in the camps. They take a national exam, and based on those scores, that is how we select our students that go into high school.
Gotcha.
So we start high school age, so 3 years of high school and 1 year of vocational trades.
Okay, so over the course of those 4 years or so, what impact does this give? Because I can just imagine, you know, you come into a system where it probably maybe feels like winning the lottery a little bit to be selected.
Absolutely. The families, even though their son or daughter is going to leave their home where they're at, they're leaving for a much better opportunity. So they are going into these schools, and oftentimes it's the first time that they've had 3 meals per day. Wow. It's the first time they've actually been able to have access to running water, their own bed. I mean, it's absolutely life-altering for these students. The drastic difference between the refugee camps and what they're experiencing in that private boarding school is life-changing.
Right. And so what do you see from the outside and inside as a person is transformed, where all of a sudden they see a future in themselves that probably was unknown? Like you said, these camps have been in place for 30 years. And so you have generations now of people that have just kind of the same.
Exactly.
So what does it look like when you look at somebody who's graduating? How are they different than when they came in?
It's hard to put into words, right? Yeah. One of our students, I remember what he said in one of the videos that we recorded. He said, you're happy because you didn't know how else to express the joy of this life-changing opportunity to be able to go to school, to be able to get an education, to be able to have that hope finally that you can get out of the conditions in these camps. Because sitting in the camps, there's so little hope without somebody coming in and giving them that opportunity.
And so now they have this hope. What are they doing with it?
It's great. They are starting jobs. They are creating an income for themselves, and then they are in turn helping those around them. It's an absolute community changer. I love these stories because I just look at those moments in my own life where something has happened that it just kind of changes everything. I think of mission trips where you've engaged in a way that, I don't know, I remember going on a Maranatha trip, and you're a high schooler, so you know what you know. You don't really realize what you don't, but it's like all of a sudden the blinders have been taken off a little bit. So I'm curious, what has that done for you guys as you experience these as well? How has it changed how you guys are engaging with community?
Well, the beautiful thing about that is when you take someone who has never seen, let's say, even a third world or a developing country, and they come over and their eyes they're opened and their worldview just changes. And they're like, people really live like this? And you see things on TV, but it's hard to believe, you know, until you experience it yourself. And experiencing it and just seeing it on TV is huge. It's very big distance. So just last month, we took another group that is, some of them never been out of the country. Some never been to Africa, most of them. And they came, and just sitting in the bus and driving through the streets and seeing how people live and what they have to deal with in their life. It's like looking back 100, 150 years into our pasts of how we had to live. And they're still living like that. And they're still working hand to mouth and every day creating things so that they can exist. So survival is what they're doing. And so very few of them have opportunities. And in these countries where people just aren't noticing that they're still suffering, when you're able to shine a light on that and say, look, we're there. We actually have the opportunity to walk into these camps because we have worked hard to work with the UN and with the government to be able to have that permission, to be able to take these kids out of these camps and send them to a Christian boarding school. And they let us do that. And right now we have 800 students going to Christian boarding schools around the country. And many of those Adventist schools. And so we're able to impact that many kids, but not only that, when they finish that step, they go to the vocational trade. And so then they start learning a trade. During that time that they're in high school, we give them an opportunity in the summer to come back to one of the academies and learn a trade as they're going through high school. So we introduce them to trades. So for 4 weeks during the summer, they come back and every day they work in a trade or two and start to learn the process, entrepreneurship skills, business skills. We teach them health and wellness while they're there. So that impacts their community as well because they get to take this information back to their families in the camps and teach them about health or teach them about there are opportunities out there. And so they're able to encourage their younger brothers and sisters, study hard so that you can be chosen for Impact Hope as well. So it changes the community. And I get to go and see these families. I meet the mothers. Some of them have fathers still, and I get to meet them. And they are so grateful to our donors and sponsors for taking their child and providing them with something that they can never do. And so just the gratitude, sometimes the tears in their eyes when they hug us and say, you have done what we can't do. Thank you. So it's so beautiful to be able to affect that many kids. And so I would say right now Impact Hope is helping about 1,200 kids a year. in different levels of education, and now in livelihood. So livelihood is a word I didn't really understand until I went to Africa. And I'm like, okay, what's livelihood? So that is where you help people in the job market.
Okay.
And you help give them skills, and you help them get to that next step so that they can either create a business or be able to work for someone after getting skills. And so we have these new projects that we're working on that we're also going to be able to share with you,
yes,
and some pictures with that. But you were talking about a mission trip, and I totally went past that.
No.
So let me go back to a story, if that's okay.
Yes.
So just last month, we took a group to Rwanda, and this was their first time there. So after being able to experience this, it took them some time to adjust to life. You have to slow way down when you get there, because our fast-paced life, you know, on devices and computers and running here and there in cars, and it's completely different. And so when they start to slow down, then they start to see things, and they start to experience things, and they look at food differently when they're there, and then how the kids eat over there. So there was this academy that is one of the places that we send about 150 of our students to, and really beautiful location up in northern Rwanda. It's cooler up there, and it's where all the volcanoes are and the gorillas, and of course we don't see those. So they're up there for most of the year, and we discovered that the girls' dormitory bathroom, which is just a concrete building with a tin roof, has not been didn't have running water for like over 7 years or longer. And we're like, where are they getting water? How are they bathing? How are they doing laundry? How are they? And they showed us these 2 outdoor spigots that 500 girls are using daily to brush their teeth, to put water in a bucket so that they could do a splash bath, and wash their laundry in buckets. And we're like, this is something that can be fixed. And so we took this team over, and there was a family that came, and they were in construction, and they knew things. And so we were happy to bring them. And he looked at this long building with 17 showers, and the water had to go all the way from one end to the other, which never happened even when it was first built.
Okay.
And he's like, we need a pressure tank. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. So we scoured the country, looked for a pressure tank, got it sent up there, and through a series of many miracles in getting the right parts to make this all work, it was Friday evening, just as the sun was going down, and it still wasn't working. And we're like, Lord, we need your help.
Right.
And 2 times we sent people to town to go buy these little screws to be able to put into the wall to make the pressure work.
Okay.
And the second time was the last one, and we put it in, and we prayed, and all of a sudden there was water.
I love it.
So I know the headmaster was so thrilled, because water, sanitation, and health, it's important, and they just didn't know how to do it. They didn't have the money to do it. And so this was just a project that, wow, from beginning to end, we were like, is this possible?
Yeah.
Thank you, God. It was possible. And now 500 girls have a place to actually bathe where it isn't out in the open, and to be able to have privacy and to have clean water. So.
And this is a little outside of what you guys normally do.
Yes, this actually benefited a lot of people, but it benefited our students as well. And we use this campus for our summer trade program. So it's important for us to have a functioning place that actually has health and hygiene with it. And so we were happy to be able to provide this. And we have many other mission trips that we want to bring more people to and experience Rwanda. And not only the safari animals, which you get to do, but also to be able to give back to someone who doesn't really have anything, doesn't really know much. And we have skills, we have things here in this country that we can bring that completely change their direction, their life. So it's a wonderful thing to be able to have a mission trip. I love missions.
So if somebody were interested, a church or a school, if somebody were interested in getting more information, how would they find out about these trips?
They can email us at info@impact-hope.org.
Okay.
Or go to our website, impacthope.com. and message us, and we would love to get them information about that, because it is life-changing.
Exactly. I love how, there's this, I call it God math, God goggles. God could absolutely have just taken care of all of that without any input from his people. But he used you guys who are in there to improve the lives of these kids and the communities through these kids and all these other things. And he chose to use your teams in a way that was a little outside your skill set, but you had the connections, you had the willpower to send people back into town. I just love these examples of how God will use his people to do amazing things that now become a story that can be shared to encourage other people. I just love that. So folks, I just encourage you, we always have these opportunities. We hear about mission trips, we hear about needs. Be thinking about not so much, and certainly what skills could you bring to the table, but what willingness can you bring to the table to engage, whether it's with Impact Hope or some other organization. Start to think, we need to all just start to think of how can we be used to make somebody else's life better.
And along those lines, so you have people in churches, and let's say they're hearing this, and they're like, okay, well, I can't go to Africa myself because of this, and this. But those people can help encourage some younger people that have never experienced something like this and never seen anything outside their world, and help them raise money.
That's right.
Help them raise funds to be able to go on a trip like this. And I'll tell you, we had kids as young as 5, teenagers on this trip, and they worked hard or as hard as the adults. Yeah. And they made an impression on the kids that were there. And they're like, wow, these kids actually know how to work. And they're working for us. And so it was quite an impression for them. But people in churches can encourage their own youth or young adults to come on a mission trip, to be able to leave here and go over and actually make an impact. So I encourage people to start thinking about that within their own congregation, of how they can send somebody with Impact Hope on one of these trips, or another organization, because it really does benefit them, but it benefits that person.
That's right. That's right. So, oh man, there's just so many things we can talk about. I'm really excited to hear, we've talked about the vocational schools and the training and everything. What other things are you starting? You have a new project that's about to launch right now, or that maybe it's already started. Tell me about that.
So in the last couple months, our donors and sponsors have helped us fund a place called the Kigali Tailoring Center. Okay. So this is a new initiative that we have, because Impact Hope wants to be as sustainable as possible. So, and what we're doing is we created this new garment industry, so that our tailoring graduates from our program, those that reach the highest levels in the different mentorships that we have outside the camps, we are going to hire up to 100 of those students and bring them to Kigali, the capital city, and be able to provide them a job in our garment industry. And in this method, they'll learn more from what they've already learned, but to be able to actually earn money by making products, being able to sell them in the market, they're going to have such great experience and get a taste of life outside the camps, and how they can live. Actually, they can survive outside the camp with a job, even if it's a small amount to start with. They're really learning in those steps of how to be a business owner. So our ultimate goal is to help them be able to launch their own small businesses in the future, or work for other places that can hire them as well, so we can keep sending our graduates to these locations. So that is launching this month, and I'll be able to take photos next month on our next mission trip, to show like what's happening there and how this is affecting these people. Right.
So we'll have to keep an eye on those updates. So help me to understand a little bit with the vocational program and the training where they're learning these skills. This sounds like it's kind of a conduit also to get people out of the camps. But do a lot of the jobs keep them in the camps? How does that work? Is there free flow of people in and out of the camps, or?
There can be.
Okay.
So they're not required to stay in the camp, but that is where they have a shelter, and they still receive 10 cents a day from the UN to live on. Can you imagine?
That's unbelievable.
How do you live in a city with having 10 cents a day? So we're teaching them skills beyond that and trying to help show them that it is possible to live outside the camp with some training, education, and some opportunity. So we're giving that step by step. So not only that high school education, not only the vocational training, not only the mentorship training, but now jobs. And so providing jobs is an area that takes a lot of work and a lot of funding in order for Impact Hope to get to this step. And so that's what we've been working on, is these initiatives to open these businesses so that we can hire our students and we can actually give back to them while they're earning and give back to the program so that we can be more sustainable. You know, fundraising and grants and everything is great, but sometimes those things just don't meet the need. And so having programs that are sustainable, that bring money back into the program, are that's the next generation of you know, activity that we're doing to be able to make this a long-term project.
So what are your needs then specific to that as you're bringing this new initiative online? What needs do you guys specifically have there at Impact Hope?
Well, as we grow and we have more graduates, we need more centers to be able to provide these sustainable jobs. We just opened a bakery up in northern Rwanda, so our culinary students are able to graduate and then get a mentorship and an internship at this bakery. And so they created a brand called Hope Bread, and they're actually selling these all out throughout that community. And we drive down the road and we see Hope Bread in little stores, and they're selling it on the sides of the road. And it's just, these kids, we went, the smiles on their faces and the work that they're doing there is incredibly satisfying for them and for us to be able to see that and the progress that they're making. So not only having these bakeries, but moving these in different parts of the country so that more of our graduates can actually take part in these sustainable projects. And that takes funding. It takes work to be able to get those things created. And so Livelihood is an area that Impact Hope is really growing because it's very important for us to actually get them to the step of earning money. You know, and not only that Christian education and that time to be able to learn who Jesus is and who they are in Jesus. So as we grow in these businesses, we also worship with them in them. And so they still have that opportunity to connect wherever they are with all these programs that we have. So that's just one of the areas that we're growing right now in Impact Hope, is our livelihood, providing businesses and jobs for them to be able to work in.
So livelihood, that's a term and I haven't really, can you define that for me?
It is developing jobs for people to be able to sustain themselves at. So it's Livelihood is a new department that Impact Hope has, and let me tell you who's working in it. So we have an episode in our docuseries called Bosco, and Bosco was a student in the camp, and he had high grades. He actually was in the Hope School, and a couple years back we talked about the Hope School here at Better Life TV and what happened, and the government shut it down in the camps. So the kids lost hope, and those were the first kids we sent to some Adventist academies. And so Bosco was one of them, and Bosco was able to finish school at the top of his class, and actually in all of Rwanda. And so he got a scholarship to go to university. So he went to a university in Kigali. He graduated at the top of his class in business and accounting, and he applied for a nonprofit job. And what we didn't know and what he didn't know is he was applying at Impact Hope.
Okay.
And he was an Impact Hope graduate. And so he shows up and he talks with our executive director, and they discovered that he is one of their beneficiaries. And so he was hired to work in procurement, and he's been with us for several years now. And he was just promoted to the Livelihood manager.
Very cool.
And so now he is actually running our Livelihood department. And he was a beneficiary from the camps and started out. So that was a beautiful story. So if you ever want to see something wonderful, look up our Bosco episode of our docuseries.
All right, we'll certainly link that on the website as well. In the couple minutes we have left, I'm just really curious. You know, you said you've been there for 10 years now.
Yes.
And sometimes, I would think often, it's hard to get a foothold. You have to build trust.
Yes.
You have to build an infrastructure, all of these things that come together. Did you run into those challenges, and how is Impact Hope perceived with the government and other organizations as you have shown a history of making a difference in the country? What does the relationship look like?
At different stages in Impact Hope's growth, we were dependent on implementing partners. And so we would raise the funds here, send it over there to an implementing partner who would run our program for us.
Okay.
And over time, we really wanted to be able to provide more for our students and a deeper level. So we worked hard for years to create an NGO within the country as well. And so as we did that, step by step, we built relationships with the UN and with the government of Rwanda. And as we became a trustworthy partner in the camps, they allowed us to be able to have our program independently within the camps. And so now we work directly with those entities in the camps. And as we're growing, they're allowing us to take more kids and to be able to provide different levels of help to them. And so within the government, Impact Hope has a wonderful relationship at this point. And we want to continue to grow and help more people. And so we have another project that's coming up that we'll talk about at another time that Impact Hope is doing.
That is so cool. We talk about that a lot here at Better Life, and just the importance of being part of community. And one of my dreams for our churches, for our schools, that when something good is being talked about within a community, in your community there in Rwanda or wherever, that somebody at that table, because of working with our organizations, our churches, our schools, our people, somebody at that table is going to say, oh, somebody call Impact Hope. They love people. They love kids. They're somebody worth partnering with. And that's what you guys are doing. So thank you. We will absolutely have another episode where we'll talk more about some other projects you have coming up. Great. But I just want to thank you, Liz and Carrie, for being that hope in communities. It can be really hard to see hope. And something you guys had said, Liz, is that sometimes we need to slow down and start just looking around, and our pace is so fast, and we just need to slow down and be looking for those reasons to hope. Look for those opportunities where we see that God is engaging with his people to do amazing things, which may be bringing water to a community, or teaching people how to sew or weld or whatever. So thank you for being the hands and feet of Christ in community, and for encouraging us to do the same. And I just want to encourage our viewers today that as you look around, look for those opportunities, look for those spaces where God is working, and see how he wants you to fit into that, so you can be having an impact on your community as well. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day. Goodbye.